Welcome to the Digital Intellect, bringing you the latest news from around the world. Breaking news. An unprecedented aviation incident has just unfolded over Alaska. The United States has taken the extraordinary step of grounding all air traffic. Details remain scarce, but the magnitude of the event is already sending shockwaves across the nation and the world. On June 16, 2025, the world seemed to freeze in place as headlines blared. A catastrophic event had struck a jetliner high above Alaska's vast frozen wilderness. The chilling news spread rapidly, leaving millions glued to their screens, desperate for any scrap of information. Newsrooms erupted into chaos, journalists racing to verify facts. Families of passengers clung to hope, their faces etched with worry. Across the country, airports fell eerily silent, the usual bustle replaced by a tense collective pause as the aviation industry braced for answers. The unfolding story centered on a single flight. What began as a routine journey quickly turned into a nightmare, forever altering the lives of those on board. A state-of-the-art jetliner had suffered a catastrophic failure mid-flight, shattering the illusion of safety that modern technology had promised. In an instant, the confidence of an entire industry was shaken. Silence from officials only deepened the growing fear and confusion. What exactly had gone wrong? Was there any hope for survivors? The lack of answers left a nation on edge. The FAA responded with a sweeping decision, grounding all domestic flights. It was a move not seen since the aftermath of September 11th, underscoring just how grave the situation had become. Military jets and emergency services were rapidly mobilized, scouring the rugged snow-covered terrain. Search and rescue teams braved the elements, preparing for the worst but hoping for a miracle. The world's attention locked onto Alaska, where a high-stakes drama of human courage, technical failure, and systemic vulnerability was unfolding in real time. As the hours dragged on, information trickled in slowly, each update intensifying the suspense. The uncertainty was agonizing for those awaiting news. Every new detail was scrutinized by experts and the public alike. This was no longer just a news story, it had become a national crisis touching every corner of society. The fate of the passengers and crew hung in the balance, their loved ones caught between hope and despair as they waited for word. The investigation that followed would soon reveal hard truths about aviation safety, exposing vulnerabilities and demanding answers from those in charge. Around the world, people gathered in vigils, united by a shared sense of dread and hope. The tragedy had become a global moment of reflection and solidarity. The lessons learned from this flight would echo through the aviation industry, sparking changes in safety protocols and forever altering the way we fly. The world would never look at the skies the same way again. The day began like any other at Anchorage International Airport. Calm, routine, predictable. Among the departing flights was Global Air Alliance 752, a Boeing 797 Dreamliner bound for Seattle. Nearly full with 188 passengers and 8 crew. Travelers settled in, oblivious to the ordeal ahead. Captain Eva Rostova and First Officer Ben Carter, both seasoned pilots, completed their checks. Everything was normal. Engines roared to life and the aircraft pushed back on schedule. The mood was professional, relaxed. The plane lifted into the blue sky, leaving Anchorage and the Cook Inlet behind. For everyone on board, it was just another 4-hour flight. No one sensed the looming crisis. The ordinary was about to become extraordinary. Their journey would soon test every limit of survival. Flight 752 climbed smoothly to 30,000 feet, slicing through the clouds in the calm blue sky. The engines hummed steadily, and everything seemed routine as the aircraft soared above the world. Inside the cabin, passengers settled in for the journey. Some chatted quietly, others read or dozed off. Flight attendants moved down the aisles offering drinks and snacks, their smiles reassuring everyone that this was just another ordinary flight. Suddenly, a deafening bang shattered the peace. Without warning, a section of the fuselage blew out, leaving a gaping hole in the side of the plane. The roar of rushing air filled the cabin, and chaos erupted in an instant. Air and debris were violently sucked out into the sky. The temperature inside the cabin dropped in seconds, turning breath into fog. Passengers screamed as panic swept through the rows, the shock of the disaster setting in. Oxygen masks dropped from overhead panels, swinging wildly. Passengers scrambled to put them on, fumbling with trembling hands as they gasped for air, desperate to breathe in the thin, freezing atmosphere. The chaos was absolute. Wind howled through the cabin, loose items flew everywhere, and pain shot through everyone's ears from the sudden loss of pressure. Fear gripped every soul on board, the sense of helplessness overwhelming. Amid the terror, the crew's training took over. Flight attendants steadied themselves, their faces tense but determined, ready to guide passengers through the nightmare. Flight attendants shouted clear instructions, helping passengers secure their masks and urging everyone to stay seated and buckle up. Their voices cut through the panic, trying to restore a sense of order in the chaos. In the cockpit, the pilots fought to control a wounded aircraft. Warning lights flashed, alarms blared, and the crew worked together, communicating urgently as they assessed the damage. The plane threatened to spiral out of control, buffeted by the sudden decompression and structural damage. Every movement was a struggle to keep the aircraft steady, every second was a battle for survival. The stress was etched on every face, as both crew and passengers clung to hope amid the chaos. The crew's professionalism became the only anchor in the storm. Their calm actions and steady voices offered a lifeline to those paralyzed by fear. The reality of mortality was inescapable. Faces reflected terror, disbelief, and silent prayers, as everyone confronted the possibility that these could be their final moments. The fight to save the plane, and everyone on board, had begun in earnest. Every action, every decision was critical. The next moments would decide their fate. In the thin air at 30,000 feet, survival hung by a thread. In the cockpit, alarms blared and warning lights flashed. The pilots faced catastrophic decompression and structural failure. Captain Rostova's Mayday call cut through the chaos. Mayday, Mayday, explosive decompression, structural failure, uncontrolled descent. Anchorage controllers cleared the skies, but the plane was barely controllable. Hydraulics damaged, systems failing. The priority descend below 10,000 feet so passengers could breathe. The aircraft plunged, gut-wrenching but necessary. The pilots worked emergency checklists, fighting to stabilize the jet. As they descended, control improved slightly, but the danger was far from over. The structural integrity was unknown. Could the plane survive landing? The crew braced for the most critical challenge yet, bringing everyone home alive. The approach to Anchorage was tense. Every passenger braced, every crew member focused. The cabin was filled with a heavy silence, broken only by the occasional nervous whisper or the sound of seatbelts being tightened. Outside, the Alaskan night loomed, and inside, hope mingled with fear. Emergency vehicles lined the runway, lights flashing, ready for disaster. Firefighters and paramedics stood by, prepared for the worst but hoping for the best, their faces illuminated by the strobe of red and blue. Air traffic control cleared Flight 752 to land. The world held its breath. In the tower, controllers watched every movement, their voices calm, but their eyes betraying the tension of the moment. Captain Rostova and First Officer Carter guided the crippled jet on final approach. Every second counted as they worked together, communicating with precision, their training and instincts taking over. The landing gear deployed, a small victory. Relief flickered across the crew's faces, but they knew the hardest part was still ahead. The plane came in fast, hit the tarmac hard, bounced, then screeched to a stop. The jolt threw passengers forward, hearts pounding as the aircraft shuddered and finally settled. Silence, then a wave of relief and applause swept the cabin. Tears flowed, hands clasped in gratitude, and strangers embraced, united by survival. They were on the ground, but the danger wasn't over. Smoke drifted from the engines and the threat of fire lingered in the air. Flight attendants commanded the evacuation. "Unbuckle! Leave everything, this way!" Their voices were steady, guiding passengers through chaos with practiced urgency. Emergency slides deployed, passengers exited quickly and orderly. Some stumbled, others slid with children in their arms, but all moved with purpose toward safety. Within minutes, everyone was off and safe. Relief washed over the group as they gathered on the cold tarmac, shivering but alive. The miracle on the tarmac was complete. Against all odds, a catastrophe had been averted, and families were reunited in tearful embraces. Against all odds, they had survived. News cameras captured the raw emotion, smiles through tears, and the stunned disbelief of those who had just escaped death. The crew's skill and calm had saved 196 lives. Passengers thanked them, some with words, others with grateful hugs, knowing they owed everything to their professionalism. The world watched, awed by their courage. News of the miraculous landing spread quickly, inspiring millions and reminding all of the power of human resilience, but the search for answers was just beginning. Investigators moved in, determined to uncover the truth behind the terrifying ordeal. What had caused this near tragedy? The investigation would soon reveal the hidden dangers that nearly brought down Flight 752. Relief quickly gave way to urgent questions. How could a modern airliner fall apart mid-air? The NTSB's elite GO team arrived in Anchorage, treating the jet as a crime scene. The black boxes, flight data and cockpit voice recorders were recovered and flown to Washington, D.C. These would reveal every detail of the flight's final minutes. Investigators interviewed crew and passengers, piecing together first-hand accounts. Another team examined the torn fuselage for signs of fatigue, corrosion, or impact. Maintenance logs and manufacturing records were scrutinized for clues. The investigation was massive, covering every aspect from design to daily upkeep. The goal: find the root cause, not just assign blame. The safety of millions depended on their work. The world demanded answers and change. The black boxes revealed the truth. A door plug had blown out because 4 critical bolts were never installed. The focus shifted from accident to catastrophic manufacturing failure. Investigators traced the error to the Boeing factory. The plug was removed during production, then reinstalled without the bolts. Records were incomplete, inspections missed the lapse, the system had failed at every level. Whistleblowers described a culture prioritizing speed over safety, with shortcuts and ignored protocols. The incident was not isolated but a symptom of deeper problems. Public trust in aviation was shaken, calls for reform grew louder. The near disaster forced the industry and regulators to confront uncomfortable truths. The fallout was swift. Immediate inspections grounded hundreds of planes worldwide. Production halted as manufacturers overhauled quality control. The FAA imposed stricter oversight and new inspection protocols. Airlines and manufacturers renewed their commitment to safety culture, empowering employees to speak up. Whistleblowers gained stronger protections, and safety, not speed, became the priority. New technologies now monitor aircraft integrity in real time. Training programs were updated, inspired by the crew's heroism. The legacy of Flight 752 is hope, a tragedy that made flying safer for all. The sky is made safe by vigilance, not chance. The crisis over Alaska became the catalyst for a safer future.